Hello and welcome to this episode of That's Interesting. I'm your host, Frank Hart. This show explores things that I find interesting. I hope that you find them interesting too. The guest on this episode is author Wayne G. Miller. Wayne is here to talk about his book, Fore River Shipyard. This book is part of the Postcard History Series. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Thanks, Frank. Good to be here.
Yeah. So why don't we start off with, how did you come to write this book, and what's the Postcard History Series type of books?
Yeah, I retired over 15 years ago now. I was a really young guy at the time, and I was looking for a hobby. I didn't want to just sit and vegetate and watch television. So I started collecting old postcards of Quincy, and as the collection grew, I came to own quite a few postcards of the Fore River Shipyard in its infancy. And from there, I went to collecting the actual ships that were built at the shipyard. So I had postcards of the earliest battleships and sailing ships that were built in Quincy. And that expanded, and I ended up with about 250 different postcards of Fore River ships and postcards of the interiors of the shipyard, what it looked like back then when it started. So it was just a fun hobby. I ended up with like 3 albums full of postcards. And while this was going on, I noticed there really weren't any books written about the Fore River Shipyard. There were pamphlets and chapters within other books. And so I contacted Arcadia Publishing, which does a series of postcard histories of towns, small towns all across America. They have over 10,000 titles.
Wow.
And I said, I got all these postcards of the Fore River Shipyard, and Quincy was the largest shipyard at the time during World War I, and I think it would sell a lot of books in Quincy and around the area because it was the largest employer at the time. And I filled out all the forms, and they decided to publish it. So that was 13 years ago this week that it was published, and it still sells to this day. It's very popular, and
Good.
It's on Amazon, so anybody can look it right up there, and if they have any interest in it. So
Yeah,
that's
because
how
we're only going to talk about a few of the pictures that are in this book, because there's
Yeah, okay.
they were telling me there's like 210 pictures in there. We're going to talk about 21 of them, so there's a lot more to explore in this book.
Right.
So why don't we start with the early years?
Okay.
So here's our first picture.
Well, this is Thomas Watson's first machine shop in East Braintree. Watson formed the shipyard on his property. He was Alexander Graham Bell's assistant from 1876 until 1881. Bell came into a machine shop in Boston, and he came in with his crude invention, which was called the harmonic telegraph, which he wanted to turn into a telephone. And there were a lot of people around the world working on a telephone at the time. And the owner of the machine shop turned Bell over to young Watson, who was in his early 20s at the time. And Watson worked exclusively with Alexander Graham Bell from, I think, 1874 to 1876. And the two of them really invented the telephone. I know Alexander Graham Bell gets most of the attention, and he's the guy who had the original idea. But Watson ends up having over twice as many patents related to the telephone as Alexander Graham Bell. So Watson ends up with 10% of the stock of the company, which made him a fabulously wealthy man by the time he was 25. And so when he retired from Bell Telephone in 1881, he decided to start to sell some of his interest in the Bell Telephone, and he moved to Braintree. So he had a farm, and on the farm he came to the idea that, well, he'd like to work with his hands and machinery, because he enjoyed that type of work. So he built a machine shop, which is what you see here on his property. It looks dilapidated, and by the time this picture was taken, it probably was. But there were 25 men that worked in the machine shop.
Yeah.
And in the 1880s and 90s, they made small marine engines. And eventually they start to build small yachts in East Braintree.
Yeah, so this East Braintree site, if I understand it correctly, is near where the current Braintree Yacht Club is.
Well,
approximately?
Yeah, it's near Manataqua. It's where the Manataqua River meets the Fore River. It's Weymouth Landing is what we call it today. Yeah, he had 60 acres there.
Wow.
Right where you come from Quincy to Weymouth Landing, his farm would have been on the left just before you get into that area.
Yep.
60 acres. Yeah.
Okay, yep. A lot of land. Next picture, please, John.
Well, by the 1890s, this is what his property looked like if you looked from the Weymouth side across the Fore River, which is pretty narrow at that point. It's only a couple hundred yards, as you can see the water there. So he had a building shed at the right. That's where the larger yachts, and eventually he built 2 ships for the United States Navy there, torpedo boat destroyers that were about 300 feet long.
Wow.
And he garnered so much of the United States Navy business that he needed to expand. So I guess we'll get into that in a little while, how he ended up in Quincy.
Yep. Next picture.
Yeah, this is one of the earliest yachts. It's called the steam yacht Caprice, and it was the first contract for a small ship. You know, it was 20-some feet long. They had an engine, so that's how it all started, how we got into the ships. Yeah.
Okay.
That's courtesy of the Braintree Historical Society, by the way.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Next one, John.
Yeah, here's a nice photograph of Watson when he was in his late 40s, early 50s. Very handsome photo of him.
Okay.
There are several photos. Well, there's only one in the book, but over his lifetime, there are many photos that can be viewed of him.
Okay.
Yeah, well, in 1900, he moved the shipyard to Quincy Point. He was lucky. He needed a lot of land along the water front to, build out the shipyard. And at that point, it was called the Fore River Ship and Engine Company. And what you see here is the predecessor to the Fore River Bridge that most of us remember as children. That was a drawbridge. This was a swing bridge. It opened like this. And in 1902, he won the contract to build a new Fore River Bridge at the time. They needed a bridge there that would let the ships go through the Fore River Bridge and out to sea. Because otherwise they would have been landlocked at that point. Because the old bridge was an old wooden bridge that had a very narrow draw. Yeah. So this bridge had about 100-foot draw, so you could fit some sizable ships through it.
Right. Yep.
So that's the swing bridge that Watson built on his property there, and they floated the bridge down the river and put it in place at high tide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So now we get
Yeah. So, yes,
1900s and
yeah, some of the early ships that they built were for commercial customers, and what you see here is the ship called the South Shore. It would shuttle passengers from Boston to Fall River and New Bedford and Plymouth. Plymouth was quite popular, so there were a lot of ships like this that would shuttle tourists. And even people who would work from the South Shore up to Boston.
and we had another picture.
Yeah, one of the exciting things was when I started doing this project, I was quite surprised to find out that they built cruise ships in Quincy. It never had occurred to me. And yeah, this is the first cruise ship that was built at the Fore River Shipyard in 1907. The name of it was Creole. So it obviously had a run down there to New Orleans with the name Creole.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was a state-of-the-art cruise ship, several hundred passengers, and that's what it looked like. It was amazing. But over the course of 30, 40 years, the shipyard built about a dozen cruise ships.
Okay. Yep. So now we're going to get into the pre-World War I and World War I period now. So
Oh,
we
okay.
have some more pictures coming up.
Yeah, and the other thing that surprised me was how many submarines that were built at the Fore River Shipyard. They were basically the largest submarine builder in the United States.
Well, yeah.
This is a ship called the Octopus. It was built in 1908. They were only 60-some feet long, as you can see the men standing on the submarine. That's probably a photo of the Weymouth side of the Fore River
Yeah.
after it was launched. Yeah, they built over 80 submarines from 1905, 6, all the way up to some in the 1960s. It was quite a big operation. As a matter of fact, the first submarines they built were actually for the Japanese Navy in 1905. They built 5 submarines for Japan. We supported Japan against Russia in that war that they had, and it was a top secret mission.
Yeah.
And the Patriot Ledger actually broke the story around
Oh, it is,
1905 that they were building top secret submarines in Quincy. So those were the first ones built.
A lot of history there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the yard.
Yeah, this is about a 1910 photograph of the shipyard. As you can see, in less than 10 years, they had a large machine shop at the right. It had already been expanded a couple of times because you can see 3 distinct roof colors. It was pretty tiny at first,
Yeah.
about 1/3 the size that you see there. And it had quite a few employees working there, and the machine shop was still standing when I wrote this book, because I went to the remnants of the shipyard, to look
Yeah.
around and see what was going on. And that building was still standing in 2010, 12. I don't know if it's still there because they've done a lot of work since then,
Right. Yeah.
revitalizing the area. And then on the left side, the top left, that's the building slip. That is where the ship started. So they would manufacture the hull inside of that building shed, and they would have cranes that would move over the ship and bring in steel and wood, and it would take over a year between 1 and 2 years before that ship was launched out of that building slip. And it launched directly into the water. As you can see, it's pointed right towards the water.
Yeah.
And they could fit 4 battleships in that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Big area. Very big area.
Yeah. And, later on they would have several buildings like this.
Yeah.
But that was the first building slip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And this one?
Yeah, here's a real photo postcard of the Argentinian ship Rivadavia. Out of the 7 battleships that were built at the Fore River Shipyard, this was the only one that was built for a foreign government. And this was at the time that Bethlehem Steel purchased the Fore River Shipyard. They ran into all sorts of trouble with the engines on the Rivadavia, and they had to be replaced. And the Rivadavia ended up being the longest serving of the battleships that were built at the Fore River Shipyard, which is kind of odd because it took so many years to complete it and revitalize it. But it was in the Argentinian Navy until the 1950s,
Wow.
which is a long time for a battleship.
Yep.
Battleships generally only lasted 10, 15 years.
Yeah,
And then the next generation of battleships.
yeah, 'cause this picture here is from 1913. So
Yeah, it's for the
so
first
almost
year
40
when
years. Yeah.
first year when Bethlehem Steel purchased the shipyard. They finished the project.
Okay.
Fore River Shipyard ended up in financial trouble because of the building of this ship. They probably rued the day that they won the contract to build it. So Bethlehem Steel took them over in 1913, and they owned the Fore River Shipyard for 50 years
Okay.
until the end of 1963.
Yeah. We have another view of the shipyard.
Yeah, here you see a photograph of just 1 year after Bethlehem Steel purchased the yard. You can see it filled with wood for the interiors of the ship. And the building slip is at the top center, and you can see a battleship being built inside the building slip. I believe that's the North Dakota. That might even be the Nevada, which was completed just before World War I. And it says there was no steel mill, and the caption at the bottom. Bethlehem Steel put a steel mill in so they could manufacture steel in Quincy. They had a huge steel mill.
Yep.
That would have been on the past right side of that picture. It didn't make it into the picture.
Yeah, I don't think we have any pictures of it, but when we talk about the Squantum Victory Yard from World War I.
Bethlehem Steel was asked by the United States Navy to expand the yard in Squantum to build more ships because they needed the production for destroyers.
Yep.
And so the Navy spent close to $20 million building the Squantum Victory Yard. And if you've ever been to Squantum, and a lot of people from Quincy have, you turn left at Victory Road from East Squantum Street to get to Marina Bay. That's where the Squantum Victory Yard was. So they named that road Victory Road after the name of the plant, which was the Victory plant. And they built 35 destroyers there between 1918 and 1920. And unfortunately for Bethlehem Steel, the war ended only a week and a half around when they shipped the first of the 35.
Oh.
So they still had 34 to go, and the war ended. So the Navy decided to complete all of
Okay.
the ships.
Good.
Some of them were in the early stages of production. And so they were still building them in 1920, even though they were no value to the Navy any longer. So they ended up eventually demolishing the Victory Yard in the early 1920s.
Okay.
And if you go to Marina Bay with all the restaurants there, and that's exactly where the Victory Yard was
Yep.
during World War I.
Well, okay. So now we're up to pre-World War II and World War II time for the Fore River Shipyard. So we could have the next picture, please.
Yeah, this is one of the earliest of the Clemson-class destroyers that were built at the Victory Yard. They all looked the same. They were identical ships. It was mass production at its best. So they pumped out 35 of those over the course of the 2 years. And, well, between the wars, it got pretty tough for not only the Fore River Shipyard, but every shipyard in America, and I suspect around the world, because everybody was at peace.
Yep.
Peace turned out to be only 2 decades, but yeah, it was real tough times during the late 20s and through the 1930s for the Fore River Shipyard, and they had to build all sorts of different types of ships to stay alive, because the Navy wasn't calling them up anymore.
Yeah. So we go to the next picture, please.
Yeah, here you see a photograph of the shipyard from the 1920s, and you can see all the building slips, the ways that where the ships would be launched directly into the Fore River. Those are in the middle of the photograph. And you see Quincy Point just above the shipyard grounds.
Yeah.
You know, during this time, the United States Housing Corporation built a couple hundred houses in Quincy, starting in 1918, just to house all the workers. And those houses still stand today.
Sure.
Along the Town River. So that's an interesting story as well.
Okay. And go to the next one, please.
Yeah, so here's one of the ships that the Fore River Shipyard built in the 1920s. It's a ferry, the McCormack. It's kind of a great photograph, because you see the swing bridge, how it let the ship out, and you see one of the cranes at the top center at the shipyard. And they built several of these for the city of Boston, and you can see it carried automobiles, because you can see there at the just below the bridge, that area would be for automobiles, and then all the nice windows where people could look outside on the trip to Boston.
Yeah.
So that's a great photograph from the 1920s, and they built several of those ships. And during the 1930s, it got so bad that the employment dropped from about 15,000 people down to 813.
Wow, big drop.
And it was truly amazing that the shipyard survived.
Yep.
When you think about it, 800 and some employees.
Yeah. Yep. Here we go. Aircraft carrier.
Yeah, this is the first aircraft carrier built at Fore River. That's one of the most famous ships in the United States history at the USS Lexington. It was completed in 1927. It had been started just about a decade earlier as a battle cruiser, but Navy decided that they wanted aircraft carriers. So the number on this one is number 2 in the United States history. It was one ship that was built about the same time that got number 1. But over the course of World War II, the shipyard built quite a few aircraft carriers. Mm-hmm. So that was the Lexington. Unfortunately, it was sunk during the Battle of the Coral Sea in early in the war. Yep. 42. Mm-hmm. It was a large loss of life. Well, here's a photograph of USS Quincy. There were several ships through the years that were named after the city of Quincy. Okay. Yep. And this was the first one built at the Fore River Shipyard in the late 1930s. There were very few Navy ships built in the 1920s and 30s. And because there were naval treaties worldwide that restricted the building of Navy ships. It wasn't until 36 that Fore River once won a contract to build cruisers for the Navy, and this was the Quincy, and unfortunately this one was lost at in the Pacific as well. They built a second Quincy during World War II to replace it. So they built both USS Quincy's during World War II.
Yep. We have this one, battleship.
Yeah, this is the USS Massachusetts. The nice thing about the battleship Massachusetts is you can visit it today because it's in Fall River. And that's a great trip if you want to take the family down to see this battleship. There were several ships there. It's called Battleship Cove, right, in Fall River. And after I wrote the book, they had me down there to speak about it. And I sold quite a few books there. It was very popular because the ship is in the book, built at Fore River. And I was there for Memorial Day ceremonies, and that was really something because they have a speaker come in from the Navy. Yep. And usually it's a Vietnam vet or somebody from the Persian Gulf Wars at this point. Not too many World War II veterans left, but the ship survived World War II. It was one of the heroic ships in the Pacific. Right. During the war. So I highly recommend going there to visit the ship. Well, after the war, actually during the war, they were working on the USS Salem. This is a ship that could be visited in Quincy. It's the museum ship. Right. That's at the Fore River Shipyard, that's a good tour as well. You go down below and they have a shipbuilding museum, the United States Naval Shipbuilding Museum, and they have some great artifacts from shipbuilding in Quincy and through the years, and they even have short films there that you can view of launchings, and yeah, that's a nice trip. But the Salem wasn't completed until after World War II. And it served quite a few years in the Mediterranean. And today, there are volunteers that served on the ship in the 1950s and 60s who serve as guides. And in the community that I live in, one of my friends served on the ship in the late 50s, and he was excited to learn that the ship was available for viewing in Quincy, so he drove over there with his wife. Nice. To go on the tour. Good. That's another very good place to visit, right here in Quincy. Yep. So now we're getting towards the end here. I think we have enough time to keep going. Okay.
So it's kind of post World War II, and Bethlehem Steel was in there, and Salem was built. So now we're up into the General Dynamics era, which is kind of the end of it. So if we could have the next picture, please.
Yeah, well, Bethlehem Steel exited the Fore River Shipyard beginning of 1964. They had all sorts of financial problems. Through the years, there were several bankruptcies, and so the Fore River Shipyard was sold to General Dynamics at the end of 1963. General Dynamics also found out how hard it was to make money in the shipbuilding business because they only lasted 22 years themselves. But early on, they built some naval ships. This was the submarine tender, the Spear, that was delivered in 1970, 6 years after General Dynamics took over. The submarines would pull up to this ship to be serviced.
Oh, okay.
That's what a submarine tender does, and ships like this would be stationed in the European or Pacific theater, and they'd be strategically located, like in Hawaii or other places, to service submarines.
Yeah. So now with General Dynamics there, and they're building these large vessels. I remember these being built.
Yeah, the LNG tankers. During the 1970s, early 80s, the LNG tankers kept the Fore River Shipyard in business. They built 10 identical tankers. When I wrote this book, all 10 were still floating around the world, which was pretty impressive because the tankers today are twice the size of what you see here. But at the time, these things were state-of-the-art, and I believe most of them are still carrying liquid natural gas around the world. So they were quite important contracts for Fore River to have won. Kept the lights on, so to speak, through the late 1970s.
Okay. Final picture here.
The Fore River Shipyard finally closed in 1986. The last ship went through the Fore River Bridge in May of 1986. And this is just a great photograph courtesy of General Dynamics. At the top, you see the giant gantry crane that was a fixture at the Fore River Shipyard for many years, even beyond when the last ship was delivered. But it was delivered, I believe, around 1975 to Quincy. And it's in Romania today, but that wasn't until the early 2000s that it left the Fore River Shipyard. The ship that you see here is the last of the 5 pre-positioning ships that the United States Navy gave to the Fore River Shipyard for the United States Marines. And a ship like this would carry tanks and personnel and other equipment to wherever the Marines needed to do an amphibious landing. So all 5 of these were still on the water as of a couple of years ago. So that's now, it will be 40 years after construction that the 5 ships. This is the Sergeant William R. Button, named after a Medal of Honor. All 5 ships were named after Medal of Honor recipients.
Nice.
And the other thing I'd like to mention is it's going through the Fore River Bridge, the one that precedes the one that we know today. This was a drawbridge. You know, it opened like that.
Yep.
And today's bridge is a lift bridge. So that's just a great view of the Fore River Bridge.
Yeah, it's a great view of the whole area.
Yeah, it's a great view of the whole shipyard.
Yep.
Those gas tanks at the top left are
Oh, yeah.
still there, but that's basically all that remains.
Right.
You know, and the Salem would be at the right side there, where you see the water.
Yep. Yeah, one of those docks.
That's where the Salem is today.
Yep.
So if you go there to visit it, you now know where it is.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was great, Wayne. Anything else that you want to say, like how people can find your book?
Well, yeah. Well, the book's available on Amazon. All you have to do is a search Fore River Shipyard and my last name, and it should come right up. There are a lot of people selling it. Yeah. And for those who live locally, the Quincy Historical Society has it for pickup, so you can just go to Quincy Historical at 8 Adams Street.
Yep.
At the old Adams Academy building in Quincy.
Okay.
So, well, thanks for having me, Frank.
Thank you, Wayne. Yeah. Okay, so we're now at the end of this episode, and I want to thank my guest, Wayne G. Miller, for talking with us today. I would recommend this book. I've read all 3 of the ones that he's talked about on this show, and they're all really good. For those watching on YouTube, what we'll do is put a link to the 3 episodes in each one of these episodes, so you can find them easily from there. So, and I want to thank everybody for watching this episode, and I hope you stay interested. Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
All right,
This is
Frank.
good.